Hi, I'm James Newton Howard, and I'm a film composer, and I'm here in my studio in Santa Monica, sitting in front of my beautiful Hamburg D Steinway piano. I started off as a piano student when I was 4 and studied piano through high school, attended the Music Academy of the West in Santa Barbara during the summertime, and then entered USC as a piano performance major. In the case of USC, I dropped out after about 8 weeks because I was starting to really enjoy popular music, film music, rock and roll music. You know, the 70s, or actually this is the end of the 60s, were a very rich time musically. When I was 8 years old, I was a piano student. I was a pretty good piano student. You know, these days, 8-year-old pianists can play, Rachmaninoff 3, but I wasn't that good, but I was good. And I gave a recital in Beverly Hills, I think somewhere, when I was 8. And you have to understand, I came from a very humble background. And my grandmother used to keep a spinet and an upright piano, which was really, really nothing special. And I grew up playing that for a long time, and it was great. I mean, I felt great. It's a piano, and I was really enjoying it. But after this recital, I got a message that there was a patron who wanted to pay for all my music, which is a big deal, and said, I want you to go to the best piano place in the world, piano dealer in the world for me was a place called David Abel Pianos. And David Abel became a friend of mine after I went there, and the instruction I had was I could walk in and pick out any grand piano I wanted, which, as I think about that now, I mean, this was in the 50s. I mean, that was a lot of money back in those days. So I still have that piano. It was a Mason and Hamlin. I don't know what letter it is now. It was about 5.7. It was about a 5.7 piano, and I grew up with that piano. Piano has served me very well. I've been very lucky and have a lot of opportunities to play it and to compose on it and to write for it. And I was on the list with Steinway, and basically what that list meant is that whenever they got what they thought was a ringer, they would call me up and I would go to New York and play it. And I was very lucky to get the call on this piano because it's an exceptional, beautiful instrument. When you get a certain kind of sound or a certain kind of feeling about an instrument, you write differently. I do anyway. When I hear the kind of softness that this piano has, it makes me think, oh, well, I could do things this way. Or some pianos I think are just harder, and I would use them more for that kind of more crispy sound. And so they're all different. This one is made in Germany, in Hamburg. Every piano that comes down the chute is different, sometimes because there's so many complex aspects to a piano. The mechanical ones, obviously, but the actual sound of the sounding board and all the combinations that make a piano an amazing thing, but they're all slightly different. So when one comes off the line that they feel is really an exceptional piano, they have people that can evaluate this sort of thing. They call people who they felt were, in my case, I was an exception, but had enough celebrity that could enjoy and promote and use those pianos, mostly use. And so this one was particularly good Hamburg Steinway. I mean, all the things that make up a good piano, primarily the sound, which is, of course, what we're all looking for. This has a huge range of sound, from a very big sound to a very delicate kind of. Those kinds of dynamics are just, they help me sound like makes me sound like a better player, because that's not what I do for a living. I'm a composer, but the piano is very important to me, and I do compose a fair amount of stuff on it. Pianos get used largely in cinema as, in my experience, as kind of more soft, atmospheric things. It's very rare where you have a virtuosic piano part in a film score, although I did have the wonderful opportunity to work with Yuja Wang in the last Hunger Games movie, and I wrote some piano parts for her that were, for her, incredibly simple, but for me, I would not have been able to play them like she did ever in a million years. It's a very emotional instrument, and I think one has to be careful with it because a little bit goes a long way. And if it's misused, misused or abused, it could come out really saccharine and not a good addition to one score. But I think there's piano, I'm guessing now, I don't really have the stats to back this up, but feels like something like 80% of my scores somewhere, even doing this kind of thing, which I have to credit Tom Newman again, because in Shawshank Redemption, I never heard it done like he did it. And that's what this kind of thing is. And I think every other composer in the world start imitating that, including me. I think good sounds inspire creativity. So I know if I have some killer synth sounds that are made available to me, that they almost write something by themselves. And to sit down and have a beautiful piano sound is really helpful for me. I have about 4 or 5 different piano samples I work. I've written a lot of scores on this piano. When I say scores, themes, primary themes. And big one for me was Signs, which is a movie I did with Night Shyamalan quite a few years ago, but it was very... But that's the tender part. I mean, in the beginning of the movie, it's more like... And I wrote that part on piano as well. But that's the great thing about this instrument. It can be harsh and scary and frightening, and it can also be very tender and moving. So yeah, I mean, it's a great piano, and I hope that anybody who has the library finds it inspiring, invigorating, and will help you in your process in some way.